Hello, and I'm just about to get started. How's everybody today on Monday? Hope you've had a great day. I'm Janellen, and I know we've got a few people who are planning to join. We're just about at 5:30 Central Time. I'm here from Houston, Texas. Type where you're from if you're joining. Hi, Allison. Good to see you. I think you were on Live with Me Cooking the other day. Today I'll just be talking. And today's topic is the economics, or how do I afford to eat healthy? Hi, Fran. Glad you're joining. Hello. So yes, the topic of eating healthy has come up so much. Obviously, I love to practice that, but I often get asked the question, it's so hard, or how can I afford to eat healthy? Or why is it so expensive to eat healthy? And I get the question a lot. And since I definitely am a big proponent of eating healthy, I thought, let's talk about it and let me address that question. And I think you'll find that my answers may not be what you're expecting. By the way, I have a part 2 to this where we'll get down to the nuts and bolts. And tomorrow at this time, I'll actually be giving you a few examples of healthy foods that you can buy and the big price difference from one source to another. And I think you'll find that really helpful. Hello, Tobias. Where are you from? Good to see you. So I'm happy to talk about this subject because I think it's something that we all should be aware of. And I love the fact that the question was asked, because affording healthy eating, after all, it is good to think about budget. It is good to think about the economics month to month. Erin and Sarit have such successful weight loss programs. Why? Because they think of everything: sleep, your financial condition, your relationships, everything. So it is important to think about how to afford things. But when it comes to the cost of healthy eating, here's my first question that I'm going to ask back to you. Who's making you think that food should be cheap? Think about it. The SAD, S-A-D, the standard American diet, consists mostly of processed food made by large companies that continue to market diet products to keep you on a diet for the rest of your life. And they're cheap, and they keep you unhealthy and gaining weight. And just to give you an idea, I looked up some numbers and I wanted to be accurate. I double checked. 42.5% of American adults over 20 are obese, meaning they face the health challenges that come along with obesity. They're considered high risk with anything that goes on, including COVID. They have diabetes, heart conditions, achy joints, and a variety of other risks. And 73.6% are overweight, which means they're on the way to that obesity and are already suffering from a lot of those problems. But here's the interesting thing. You would think with all those overweight Americans, we must be spending a fortune on food. But here's the real fact. The percentage of household income spent on food in the USA is about 6.4%. One of the lowest countries in the world when it comes to spending money on food. Most other countries, people spend a much larger portion of their overall budget on their food. So I just wanted to bring that up to help understand the fact that we think food should be cheap when actually it should be an investment in our health and well-being. I looked up one other thing, and then we'll get off the politics, okay? But COVID deaths per capita in the USA are high on the list, number 12 out of all the countries. And there are a lot of countries in the world. And when you think of the fact that the US has advanced healthcare by all means, that is very high. Why? Because of the obesity and all of the health risks that come along with it. And most of the deaths from COVID are people who are at high risk, are people who have these other comorbidities like cardiac, pulmonary, and obesity, diabetes. So it's a vicious circle that I'd love to stop. Anyway, enough of the serious part. I've been eating healthy and clean for over 6 years, and I haven't had a single cold or flu. So if you ask me if it's worthwhile to spend a little bit more of my budget on food than the next person, I'm going to say absolutely yes. I love being healthy. I love having energy. I'm 62. I've run 2 half marathons so far this year, and I plan to do more. And it's all a lot contributed to nutrition. Of course, you need to exercise and do other things, but the nutrition is such an important part of it. And the only reason why I like to talk about nutrition is because my private group and my page is all about healthy cooking, and I love to cook, but I love to cook healthy food. And the question about affording to eat healthy comes up all the time. So that is the reason why I thought I would come on and talk about that today, because it is such an important subject, but maybe even more relevant now than ever, because we're all trying to build a strong immunity and we're trying to be healthy. And, it seems like everybody's trying to lose weight. Well, 73.6% are trying to lose weight. Now, maybe not all of them care, but I would say at least half of those overweight people are continuing to try and try and try. It's really sad, standard American diet, that we are killing ourselves with so much sugar and additives. Very unfortunate. And I think people are getting frustrated with their weight going up and down, using all of the fad diets and all of the so-called foods that have a claim only to gain the weight back. So I couldn't be happier that I didn't reach my goal last year, but I'm a happy person who didn't sacrifice and who ate well. Scroll through my feed and see if you think it looks like I was on some kind of rigid diet that you couldn't do every day for the rest of your life. So instead of losing 50 pounds last year, I lost 40, and I couldn't be happier. Sometimes it's good not to reach your goal and be happy, and I'll lose the rest that I want. There's no doubt in my mind about it. So anyway, enough of the serious stuff. And I have a dog who wants to be part of the show so bad. Sammy, maybe at the end. He's such a sweetheart. You make me forget what I'm about to say. Silly dog. Honestly, I think one of the biggest takeaways I can give you on affording to eat healthy is to think about value instead of price. So, wild salmon, perhaps one of the things that you think is pretty expensive, right? The wild salmon, it can be, $12 a pound and up. But when you think of the nutritional density that food offers, high protein, healthy fat, omega-3s, it's amazing. So what you get for the money is a real value. And the same thing can be said for really all fresh vegetables and pasture-raised beef, eggs. All of those things have so much to offer. So you want to really think about value over the dollar amount on the package. The other thing for affording to eat healthy is to really think about spending more time in the kitchen. And that's my love. I love to cook. But if you're trying to maintain a healthy diet and you're ordering that food out or paying for delivered meals, that can add up, no question. And there's a time and place for everything, right? There are times when we've just traveled and we have to order something and we need that convenience. But for the most part, we want to make our own food. Is the wild salmon at a Costco okay, or does it have additives? Costco sells 2 types of salmon. They sell the wild salmon and they sell farm-raised salmon. So it's a matter of looking at what you're buying. So in part 2, maybe we can look at a few examples of that. And Fran, you're asking a good question. How necessary to choose organic when it comes to a budget? Really good question. I'll find the post from recently and see if I can't bring that back to light. Every year, there's what they call the top 15. That used to be the dirty dozen, and now it's the top 15 foods that you should always buy organic. And the reason is because those particular vegetables tend to be, there's a lot of abuse of pesticides in the raising of those items. Coffee actually is one of them. So you want to buy those organic, but there is no need to buy everything organic. If you're able to, fantastic, obviously. Most local grown are going to be your better choice. Even if they're not 100% certified organic, they're going to be your better choice. But those top 15, you want to try to buy organic. And then for everything else, save your money. Unless, the organic is on sale, by all means, go ahead. But it's so important to buy those certain items organic. One item I always buy organic are leeks. I don't know if you're familiar there. I use them to make a soup stock. But the way they are all wound up, they're like a green onion. If you cut that open, even after rinsing it, there's still dirt inside. In fact, you have to slice it the long way to rinse it. So that's one of those items that I kind of like to buy organic because the way it's designed is such. So I hope that answers your question, Fran. Stick to that top 15 as organic and other things. Local is good. I get my produce from Imperfect Foods, if you're familiar, and they have pretty good prices on organic. In part 2 tomorrow, I'm going to talk about where I buy food and where I buy organic food at surprisingly good prices. And I think you're going to be surprised at where things are cheaper and where they're not compared to what you may think and may have in mind. In fact, I'm going to show you one product, not organic, but one healthy vegetable that has, such a variance in price from one store to the other by several dollars for one vegetable that you're going to be really surprised. So I think that's something interesting to know. I definitely don't buy all my food in one place. I do get the vegetables from Imperfect Foods. I get my meat from Butcher Box, and I shop at Whole Foods, Aldi, Trader Joe's, and sometimes a local grocer. Kind of the last choice of all. And I have a dog who still wants to be part of the picture for some reason. So my light went off. There we go. It's interesting. Okay. Lights are blinking, but the show must go on. Hi, Meredith. Where are you from? Type that in. Glad to. Anybody else have any other questions? I could talk about this all day because it's such an interesting topic. I think the most expensive foods are those that are actually containing things that we don't need. Because if you're paying someone else to prepare it and then you get this little tiny baggie of, a vegetable with a sauce, and the sauce is full of chemicals that you don't need, it's way cheaper to buy those vegetables and saute them in some olive oil, salt, and pepper, or however you like to cook them, grill them, or whatever it is. My main thing, I think the most expensive food of all, the very, very most expensive food of all, is the food you waste. Think about it. If you're not well planned and you open your refrigerator at the end of the week and there's food that's gone bad, leftovers you didn't eat, things, that are wilted or just, not their best, that is the most expensive food of all. So the food you're throwing away is really the most costly. And for that reason, I make a plan every week, and I like to organize and really put that together. So I welcome any of you to join some of my meal planning workshops, because it's easier than you think to get that organized and in line so that you don't throw food away that could otherwise be used. And a couple of other ways to make sure that you're really getting the most for your money is to use the entire piece of food. Look on my website, there's an article, 13 meals out of one chicken. And we're going to start that process on Saturday because I have a live where we can all learn to cook a rotisserie chicken at home in the crock pot. Super easy. But that will serve a couple of meals. It will serve a couple of salads. It will serve a couple of snacks. Then we're going to put the carcass in a pot and make bone broth, which is so nutritious, and make 6 or 8 servings of soup. So you can see how far that goes. But if you just got the chicken, served it for dinner, threw away the bones, and didn't maximize it, absolutely that is a shame and a waste. Next session, can you give some meat options that may be a better choice for humane handling? Yes, that in itself is an entire topic. I'll try to at least touch on it. It's a very interesting subject. But honestly, I think in general terms, the foods raised and prepared by big business tend to limit the humane treatment out of efficiency, whereas pasture-raised animals, and including by pastured eggs, those animals definitely have a better life, and a life that is more natural to what their species should be accustomed to. I mean, it's kind of funny, the farm-raised fish being fed, corn, antibiotics, candy bars, you name it. That's not natural. There's no corn growing in the bottom of the ocean. The reason why wild fish and pasture-raised beef are so healthy, it's not even you are what you eat. You are what you eat eats. So, those proteins have the phytonutrients in them that you also find in plants, in fruits and vegetables as well. So I think that's extremely important to know, and part of really buying quality, and that is going to go a long way for affording to eat well. It's definitely worthwhile. But the waste, I think, is the biggest area where it all seems expensive. Buying too much produce can be a problem. In my group, I like to share a lot of tips for what to do when you do buy too much, because there are things you can do. Maybe I'll show you a couple. But you can make a smoothie bag, you can freeze things, you can can things, you can make soup. Every Friday morning, my breakfast is what I call leftovers breakfast. And I make an omelet out of this and that I have left, because I'm going to do my shopping order usually Friday afternoon. So that omelet could be a couple of mushrooms, a little bit of onion and some peppers. It could be some leftover broccoli. It could be, I've had some unusual breakfasts as a result, but I make a point of having that leftover breakfast. Sometimes it's amazing. I end up with some crazy combinations, and they're never repeated because every Friday I have different leftovers. So if you like a mystery, come on over for breakfast on a Friday. You never know what you're going to get, and it'll never be the same. But that's one way that I avoid wasting food. I think you have to just constantly keep a good inventory. But it's definitely a good subject. So what I'm going to cover tomorrow is some actual shopping and some actual examples. And I think that's probably what you're expecting to hear. But I think it's important to have this discussion and really think about the investment in food. Because when you look at the size of America, meaning those obesity and overweight statistics, you would think we spend a lot of money on food. But I think big business has given us that perception that food should be cheap. And think about it. Does your body deserve cheap? It's definitely something to think about quite a bit. So I hope you'll join me tomorrow. I think it'll be a fun discussion. And I do want to thank all of you. I've been doing these live discussions and mostly live cooking, just to thank everyone for supporting me in the 2021 Favorite Chef competition, which I'm so excited. I entered the competition as a home cook against professional chefs and caterers and business owners. I made it through top 15, top 10, top 5, and won my group round, and I'm now in a quarterfinal. Now it's hard, and I really need the votes, and I know it's a lot to ask. Thanks, Fran, for voting today. It takes a daily vote, and many people have been kind enough to also buy votes which benefit Feeding America, and it's just been a great ride. I've enjoyed being a part of this, and I'm ever so humbled at this grassroots effort to propel me through this, but I truly believe that healthy cooking should be featured in Bon Appetit magazine as the winner. And those of us who are constantly feeling bombarded by the pictures of things that they feel they can't eat would love to open the page of a magazine and see a healthy meal that is also really beautiful and something that they want to have. So that's my goal. So I really appreciate everyone supporting me in that mission, and I hope you'll join me tomorrow, where we'll do some real hands-on discussion about eating economically but eating well. And I thank you for joining. Let me know if there are other discussions or other food demos that you would like to see. Saturday we are making the chicken, and I'll be following that up with the tortilla soup and a couple of other things. So again, thanks for joining me, and get your vote in. I really appreciate the support.